So thrilled today to introduce my guest, who is returning for his second appearance on the show, saxophonist, composer, and educator Aaron Gratzmiller. An active performer, Gratzmiller has shared the stage with notable artists such as Kurt Elling, Antonio Hart, Verera, and Matt Savage, among others. He currently co-leads the Pearcy Gratzmiller Jazz Quintet, a project that combines traditional hard bop jazz with modern elements. Their debut album, 2018's Over the Edge, has received critical acclaim in several online publications, including Something Else, Jazz.U, Audible Addiction, and Vinyl Chapters. And Gratzmiller played tenor, alto, and soprano saxophones on the album, composing 6 of its 10 songs. Within the field of music education, he's the founder of Union Lesson Studios, a new teaching business. He's the director of arts and education for the New England Jazz Enrichment Foundation, which seeks to serve New England communities by providing opportunities for the exploration of the world of jazz. The foundation organizes and runs the Worcester Jazz Festival in addition to other community programs. Hey, Aaron, it's so great to have you back on the show.
Hey, it's great to be back.
How's it going with the quintet?
Yeah, it's been fun, playing in it, having it grow over the years, hearing our group sound develop as we play some more. It's always good to have opportunities to play like original jazz music, like in the public.
That's an interesting thing because, typically speaking within our culture, I personally would love to see styles like jazz really get more airplay and have the listening public really try to understand great art like this. And let's talk about this. So what have you found in trying to promote the quintet? How's the reaction been and finding more listeners more with a modern audience?
Yeah, it's changed quite a bit. I think the music industry is still catching up with the internet a little bit. It's kind of on the right track. I think emailing different online publications versus the traditional route of like putting up something in the newspaper or whatever. And sites like Spotify are kind of polarizing, but I think that they've been a really good resource of like attracting new listeners from like not just in Massachusetts where I'm from, but in different parts of the world.
The landscape of the touring jazz musician, it has to be much more different from decades ago, right? How is it different booking events and booking gigs across the country and perhaps internationally?
I don't know if booking has changed so much. I think the method by which you have to attract your audience is different, where maybe traditionally you would go through a record label and they help promote you. Now it's kind of on the artists to do everything themselves. But I think booking gigs, the way I look at it, it's actually kind of the same way somebody like Art Blakey may have looked at it, and that like the concert is really the product and the album is the means of promoting it and attracting people.
So you compose the album and then you take that as kind of like a calling card and then you tour with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They can hear it and hopefully come to the show.
It's hard bop with modern elements. And let's talk about modern elements. I think I have a fair understanding of what hard bop is, which is bebop with more bluesy and R&B influences. What is the state of modern jazz as of 2019?
I guess it's going in a bunch of different directions. I think that what you hear with modern jazz, we haven't really dived into so much in our album, but is using patterns, constant structure ideas, like maybe less harmonically focused, like it's less oriented towards chords and more oriented towards patterns and shapes, like within a scale. I think you find more not to get overly technical, but like symmetrical scales versus like the diatonic scale, which is the normal like the scale that most Western music has used in the past 300 years. So I think those are the two main things, and then maybe what you're hearing more recently is jazz writers adopting different song forms. It's not always just AABA or a 12-bar blues, but maybe sometimes getting back to like a verse chorus type of format, or just odd forms that you haven't heard so much before.
Do we need to break the form, or are traditional forms still good to go?
I would hate to see it go away completely, because I think it's an important part of the identity of jazz music. If you get too far, in my opinion, if you get too far removed from it, it starts to not sound so much like jazz anymore. With that being said, I think if you only adhere to it, it's hard to create something fresh that can connect with people today.
You know, the saxophone is so wed to jazz as a genre, but sometimes you might hear like the saxophone, like a rock saxophone on Bruce Springsteen, or I think Lady Gaga had a song with a saxophone. It sneaks up. It sneaks in sometimes. It's kind of an off-the-wall question, but can you see the saxophone appearing in other genres other than jazz, and convincingly or effectively?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what draws me to the saxophone, and I think what makes it kind of so widespread in like contemporary music, or I guess you could generalize and say pop music over the last 100 years, is that it's a very vocal instrument. All the alto and the tenor roughly fit like the range of the human voice. It uses breath. And we have access to a lot of the same expressions that a vocalist might, as opposed to, like, let's say a piano, where it's a little bit more difficult in that way.
You play tenor, you play alto, you play soprano. Do you have a favorite instrument? I mean, a favorite saxophone? I know you like Coltrane, right?
Yeah, of course. I think I started on the tenor, which is a little bit unusual for a fourth grader. I think when I started on it, it was because that's what the school had available, and I didn't have like an instrument to play on. But I always liked the sound a bit more than the alto. It's kind of funny growing up. By the time I got to high school, I really, really wanted to be an alto player. But all my instructors, they kept pushing me towards the tenor because I sounded maybe a little bit more natural on it.
Well, you said that Dexter Gordon is also, you enjoyed him very much.
Yeah, I think my Dexter Gordon has been one of my favorite saxophonists ever. Coltrane was probably his album Blue Train was probably a path a lot of people used to get into jazz, but that album was what really got me into the jazz style originally. And him and maybe Cannonball Adderley, the album Blue Train by John Coltrane and the album Cannonball Takes Charge, were like the two that got me started, I guess.
Well, I'm such a fan of your playing, and I really want to change the culture around music. I feel the main problem is the listening audience, they really don't know. They don't need, take a jazz song. You play the melody, you improvise, and then you play the melody again. But you'd be surprised. Most people don't really know what's going on when the song starts. They just think the band starts playing, and then that's it. The jazz has begun. But there's a form. People are improvising, and then within the improvisation, you're doing very interesting things over the chord changes. Or, you're playing out, you're playing in. There's so many things you could do. How do we do this? How do we change the culture so that we can get people to really, I'd be happy if they just understood what's happening in the song.
Yeah, I think maybe music education could be a little bit more specific than it currently is. I think in schools it's very, well, I guess after general music, there really isn't much unless you opt into band. And band is really focused on reading, and there's not a lot of theory or practical music education involved in it. So I think people that spend, at least in the United States, I'm talking about, that they'll spend 12 years playing music almost, or maybe not that far, but maybe 8 or 9 years playing music in school, and they come out with maybe a basic knowledge of reading, but that's about it.
I know you, and you teach music. You're a great teacher, and I know you can teach any style of music that a student wants. Do you find it interesting that sometimes when a student requests a song, it's not so much about the music of the song, but just because perhaps it's the fad of the moment, or it's like, this person's really popular right now, I want to do their song, and then you could teach them the song, but but it's not really, they're not really looking at the music when they select that song.
Yeah, I find with kids, it's a good motivator. I like to put that in. If I'm teaching a private lesson, I don't think it's necessarily bad to put it in at the end if there's time. Some songs are a good vehicle for teaching diatonic harmony. I guess if there's enough chords to do so, and or I know, not to throw shade at anybody.
Man, I mean, like a lot of the songs, a lot of them, the music, the harmony is simple, the melody is simple, but a lot of it, they like that electronic sound. You have to recreate that sound.
Yeah, you don't necessarily. Well, I guess you have to adapt music. Some songs just don't really work if, let's say you're trying to just play it on the piano, it's going to be, or on the saxophone, it's going to be difficult to play maybe a contemporary hip hop piece, or like especially like mumble rap or something.
Mumble rap.
But I think if it's got if it's got a melody and a harmony, you can do something with it. You can turn pretty much anything into an exercise. I don't think it's a good foundation for somebody to learn music, though, if that's the only component.
When I started learning, I had a lot of strange thoughts about music, and just as I learned more about music, I started to have a more worldly understanding of what was really going on. Have you seen that in education?
Yeah, I've seen if I get a kid that starts out as they grow. I've had a few that have either gotten into jazz. I've had a handful of kids that started out liking jazz, or most kids have specific classical pieces that they like too, that they've heard. What's kind of interesting to me, like when you start with a kid that doesn't like a lot of classical or jazz music, I'm finding that what they really don't like is dissonance. And as they play more music, they get accustomed to dissonance and how it resolves, and that kind of opens up doors for them to hear music that has more content.
I feel like the lyrics kind of tether the child to the song if they're not really comfortable with music. But when you remove the words and you're just with the melody, it kind of disarms them in a way.
It does. I think it's good to have the lyrics kind of rolling through your head while you play anyhow, because that defines the meaning of the piece. If it's a piece that was written with lyrics, I think there's a handful of jazz educators talking to the co-leader of my quintet. Actually, I think you might have had him on the show. He may have mentioned that he was lucky enough to get a few lessons with Wynton Marsalis, who won't let you play a ballad unless you can sing the lyrics.
Oh,
a jazz ballad, yeah. It's an interesting.
Man, I'll bomb out of that class. I know.
Wow.
I'm not a word guy.
Yeah, I know. I have a hard time with that too, and especially with. I guess if the piece had lyrics originally, it would make sense.
Can we get into that a little bit? Okay, I respect a lot of these great musicians are really fantastic, the jazz ones, but sometimes they can come up with some really head-scratching lines about philosophy. And I'm not talking about Wynton Marsalis. I'm talking about just the type, right? We've great musicians, and sometimes when you ask a question about music or something, you get a really philosophical answer that really is quite wide of the mark.
I do agree. There's a certain point. I think artists can maybe get a little over the top with what they see as philosophy, and really, it's just not. But in my opinion, you run into people giving you exercises like play the color blue or whatever. And I mean, maybe for some people that's what they need. I never really could connect with that, I guess.
So you're saying, Aaron, do you believe that music is a craft then? It's not so, it doesn't delve in fairy world as much as people would like to think.
No, there's a science involved in it, like with music theory. There's an artistic side and emotional side to it as well. And I think at the highest level, all of that is kind of connected together. But really, if you're focused on improving regularly at your instrument or at music or composing, like at least for me, I think there's a certain focus that you need on like the nuts and bolts of what you're doing, not the philosophy.
That segues nicely into, I wanted to ask you about theory. There's so many competing ways of thinking about how to organize music in your head. You've studied theory at Berkeley. You've done your own study. You've had study before Berkeley. How much does theory play into your actual playing and composition?
I think parts of it are the maybe the foundation of how I think about music. I like to think about music in terms of intervals. I think and obviously theory is very important for learning intervals or hearing them stacked together. And music theory just in general, maybe like if you think of it in a more scientific way, you're just taking things that are elements of music and giving it a name, basically. So I think it just lays out a foundation for learning new things, coming up with new ideas, or learning the old ideas and building on them.
Do you feel like you're very cerebral in your approach, or do you feel like in a way you like to not think too much when you play? When you're improvising, Aaron, how much do you think? Well, really, the question is what's going on in your mind at the moment the solo begins?
Yeah, honestly, not too much. I like to keep the theory side of it in the practice room. When you get on stage, it's more getting immersed in what you're doing and also entertaining the audience, something that you don't want to lose too much. But yeah, the theory, if you get too wrapped up in that when you're on stage, at least for me, it kind of slows you down a little bit.
Let's talk about entertaining the audience now. I learned a guitar. My hero is Tommy Emmanuel. On stage, he likes to dance a lot. But, as I've gotten older, in many ways, I've started to retreat into this Charlie Parker stand like a statue kind of thing, and I kind of like that better. And you and I mutually know a saxophonist who is very, very lively on stage.
Oh yeah, I think I know who you mean.
When it comes to entertaining the audience, are you talking sonically? Are you talking visually? What are you referring to?
I mean, I can't say that I was ever bored watching a video of Charlie Parker. He wasn't jumping around, but I think he was serious about connecting with the audience, I guess, in terms of playing something they liked. And it's kind of interesting watching his eyes when he plays. The videos are usually poor quality by today's standards, but I think that he was in his own right a good entertainer, even though that may not have been his primary focus. But yeah, I think entertaining the audience comes down to like what you're playing, and if it has energy, like, I don't know, not to get philosophical, but
do you, as a jazz musician, you're playing a style of music that's very intellectual, it's very artistic, it's very careful, so many things could go wrong. Have you ever felt the need to try and explain things to the audience? I noticed there's a trend now in classical music where the artists are just trying to talk to the audience beforehand, at least to explain what's going on, at least in certain sections. They're trying to open up the audience. Do you feel with that you want to try and explain what you're doing in any way, or are you more like a magician who doesn't want to explain his tricks?
I'm not like keeping anything a secret, I guess, but I think I haven't felt the need to like explain like on a technical level what I'm trying to do because, at least speaking for like the quintet, the music isn't overly. We have experimental elements, but really the music is hard bop, which is a sound people are already familiar with, and that might not be necessary. What I do like to talk about, and what I know my co-leader Wayne likes to talk about too, is like maybe the backstory behind a piece where. If it's written about a specific thing or whatever that might be interesting, it kind of gives the piece a little bit of character. But in terms of explaining like a compositional or improvisational element, I haven't felt the need to do that.
Let's get back to your teaching studio, and now you've started Union Lesson Studios. Let's talk about music education as a whole, and you've gone through a great college. You've studied on your own, and you really self-study a lot, and you deal with students all the time. So, what do you feel is the current trend in music education? Do you feel like how is music education for you?
It's definitely changing. There's maybe more of a focus on popular music that there has been in the past. I think one thing I try to do to work with that is teach people how to make exercises out of, things they want to work on, or let's say learning a song in different keys. I think it's also, I guess you can point to teachers that kind of lost like the rudiments or the tradition of music, but I wouldn't know, really. I couldn't speak to whether that hasn't been happening all along, though. If there's maybe just good teachers and bad teachers, and there always has been. But I think just like the way I learned, there was kind of three parts to the lesson that were like a rudiment warm up on your instrument and some repertoire, and of course the middle part, which is a method book, and ear training and theory still haven't gone away. In fact, ear training maybe is more important than it ever has been.
How do you teach ear training? Do you have your own method? Do you follow like a Berkeley method, or do you follow a third party method?
I guess what I do maybe is in line with a lot of the Berkeley method, but not totally. It depends on the student, what their needs are. I mostly teach private lessons, which means I get people like at varying levels, either naturally or in what they already worked on. So for like if you're talking about like a beginner, if they have perfect pitch, if it seems like, then maybe the focus in the beginning is developing that. I like to teach. If I put it in order, I like to teach chromatic intervals first. Maybe that's where I differ from Berkeley, and then diatonic, then major. First chromatic intervals, and then chords that are built chromatically. Learn what those sound like, and then I get into diatonic harmony. So I guess I have that reverse from where.
Do you use is that movable DOE for the solfege system?
No, I use fixed DOE. I get people. I'm based in Massachusetts in the United States. So where I'm at, near Boston, we get people from different parts of the world that are used to fixed DOE. And if you start introducing movable DOE, that just adds like a whole nother layer.
Yeah.
And so I usually use solfege for note identification. And then I use Roman numerals for chords, and then.
Do you change the solfege syllable if it's chromatic, or does it stay the same? So like do you I know in Berkeley it was do, D, re, re. Do you just keep it as do?
Yeah, I keep it as do. I think that most people are more familiar with that. I don't know if that's maybe specific to Berkeley. It's kind of hard to find in the outside world, I guess.
Yeah. Do you find fixed do is can go all the way up to the most advanced, and or is it a training aid?
I think it's a training aid. At a certain point, especially in terms of ear training, you're going to have to be able to hear things within a scale, unless maybe if you're using relative pitch anyway. That you have to learn to hear things within a scale, whether that means using movable do or just understanding the scales within like the fixed do solfege. And I think that's the third step in really understanding how music works, is being able not to write harmony within a scale and just hear it.
Now, your co-leader, Wayne, has perfect pitch, and he has got very good ears. You guys must talk about music a lot. What does he think about ear training, and what's his approach to learning? And how would he teach ear training to someone without perfect pitch?
He has good relative pitch. I think when he plays, he tends to he relies on perfect pitch. He has very, very good tonal recall as well. So I guess he's he's one of the lucky ones. Yeah, and he doesn't really think about music in terms of patterns like maybe somebody with relative pitch has to, which is kind of interesting. When he's teaching, I guess I've taken some lessons with him actually on the trumpet, but he does talk about hearing things within a scale and then memorizing pitches, which is something I guess it's becoming more widespread on the internet right now.
Yeah. Well, Matt Savage? Does he have perfect pitch as well?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
this is I got to tell everyone who's listening, this is a killer group. I mean, not just because of absolute pitch. I mean, but these are all very serious killer musicians. They're absolutely lethal. And and Matt teaches as well, right? Do you chat with Matt about music? He must have some very interesting ideas too.
Yeah, I mean, most of my my conversations with Matt end up moving towards pop music. Oddly enough, I think that I play in his band called the Groove Experiment, which is kind of jazz pop fusion in some ways. What kind of interests me about Matt that's unique, I think you don't really hear a lot of perfect pitch people in jazz playing this way, where like they tend to rely on their instincts mostly and vocabulary, where Matt uses pattern-oriented playing and cycles in his music, like quite a bit, and you can kind of hear, like when you listen to him improvise, you can kind of hear his thought process. He's a very thoughtful musician too, so it's kind of interesting. He uses. I'm guessing, I guess I can't really get inside his head too much, but it seems like he uses a combination of perfect and relative pitch when he plays. It's kind of.
If you have any advice for a kid who's just listened to what you just said about ear training, how would they go about training their ears?
Yeah, first. On your instrument, or just vocally learn the diatonic scale and learn the chromatic scale. I would my advice would be learn all of the chromatic intervals first. Like learn what a major third or a minor third sounds like. Don't worry so much about memorizing notes or determine whether you have perfect pitch, but learn what the intervals sound like, because those are the building blocks of harmonies and melodies.
With regard to improvisation, if somebody says, Aaron, I like your playing. How do I learn to improvise like you? What's a good first step?
A good first step is listen to a lot of jazz or a lot of music in the style that you want to improvise in. And if you're an instrumental, like if you're a saxophonist, who's your favorite saxophonist? I think that's an important thing to determine. And then beyond that, start learning tunes. Start memorizing melodies. I think if you find a simple one, you can start learning those by ear. maybe more complex ones, you might be spending a lot of time figuring them out, maybe play through them a few times and then try to figure them out later by ear, and then get into transcription. I think that's like the first few steps, I would say.
Now you're the director for the for arts and education for the New England Jazz Enrichment Foundation. Now, are you in charge of the Worcester Jazz Festival?
There's a few people above me in terms of organizing that event, but I'm part of a team that organizes it. Obviously, it's a very big undertaking to put something like that together. We have my role in it is mostly coordinating with schools and with schools and colleges and putting together programs for kids to get involved that are interested in learning jazz, or just people who are interested in learning more about jazz, and as well as just unrelated to the festival, a scholarship program for people who have financial need and want to take lessons.
Right, and you guys put on the festival in school. That's quite large, right? And you guys get to bring in big names and to headline the show and that kind of thing. Yeah,
that's definitely the fun part. We have it in Worcester, in the common outside their city hall. We'll have 2 stages this year, if you find the Worcester Jazz Festival on Facebook, you'll get to see some of the artists we have playing. I'm not sure exactly what's public yet, so I don't want to get too far ahead of it. But we have an exciting lineup so far. We have an event coming up beforehand about celebrating Cole Porter and the American Songbook that we're putting on with the Worcester Academy. That will have bands playing and vocalist celebrating Cole Porter, who is connected. I think he lived in Worcester or he was connected with the area. I can't remember which exactly, unfortunately.
Now, let me ask you, you've played in big bands. I want to ask you about playing in a big band. And so what roles have you played in big band? Have you pretty much covered the entire bandstand?
In terms of I guess I haven't played trumpet or trombone or bass, but those are some difficult instruments. But
you're the lead. What you the lead alto, or was it the lead tenor?
I've played both tenor books. Some big bands, the second tenor takes a lot of the solos. But I played all 5 books in different big bands. Like there's 2 altos, 2 tenors, and a baritone sax. And a lot of times there's doubling involved with that. And they all have different considerations and different people you have to blend with. The lead alto being the person who decides pretty much the character of the whole section, how phrasing is done. Tenor 2, for example, you have to blend with the lower trombones and get in tune with them, like in an uncomfortable part of your own instrument. So, like every book has its own challenges.
Yeah, I feel like the big band is really elevated to a very high art. I mean, it used to be in the 19th century, it's all symphonies and orchestral works and concertos. But I mean, didn't the big band really undergo massive evolution and really reach, the stratosphere in terms of artistic achievement?
I think so. Compositionally and in terms of just virtuosity on the instrument. Maybe in terms of virtuosity, you could look at a band like Buddy Rich or I kind of like hearing some of the contemporary big bands like that. Like I guess if I were to cite a few, my 2 favorites right now are the Clayton Hamilton Jazz Orchestra and the Christian McBride Big Band, one on each coast. And but it's kind of interesting hearing Christian McBride's band because he takes some of his small group tunes that he played and arranges them for a large ensemble. It's kind of evolved quite a bit over what it was in even in the 60s or 70s.
Does this might be a naive question, but does everyone improvise in the big band, or is it just select people?
There's usually in a typical chart, there's usually 1 or 2 short solos. The solo complements the improvisation complements the written music instead of it being the other way around in small group jazz. And I think when you're soloing in a big band, it's important to say what you're going to say and sit down, so to speak. And don't get too far away from the song and what the composer wants you to play. Sometimes they'll even write instructions for kind of how they want you to improvise in a certain passage.
Can I ask you about the development of the big band? Now we know it's, of course, it can be as high as any kind of level of art. But when did the first modern big band really was it Count Basie, Duke Ellington? Were they the ones who kind of elevated it to a very high level?
I'd have to agree. Count Basie and Duke Ellington. Basie being kind of bringing the big band into popular music alongside Quincy Jones, I guess. Well, same band. If you listen to his their collaborations with Sinatra, and Duke Ellington was really innovative for his time. I think both harmonically and stylistically, his music is every bit as relevant today as it was then.
Is there any crossover from classical orchestral writing into big band music? I mean, were they aware of? I'm sure they must have been aware of classical music, and did that filter into big band music during its golden age of the 40s and so forth?
I'm assuming outside of Stravinsky's piece for Woody Herman, but maybe that's not the best example. I think so. The rhythmic elements kind of line up with maybe Stravinsky roughly, or the harmonies. I think what's kind of interesting about, you can draw similarities in big band harmony, especially for the brass, to what you hear in the way a romantic composer would voice a brass section a little bit. Maybe just without the root in a jazz voicing. But
I know that you are a connoisseur of the saxophone quartet. Isn't that right? So first of all, you got to explain what is a saxophone quartet, and is that anything like a string quartet, and who writes for it? Is it? And you've played me some of these pieces, and they are very, very nice. Could you explain more about the saxophone quartet?
Yeah, it is a little bit like a string quartet. It's chamber music for saxophonists. There's a lot of music that was adapted from string quartet music because the instruments roughly line up in terms of range. Stylistically, it's a much more forward, aggressive sound, I guess, than you would hear out of a string quartet, and there tends to be more. Well, since it's a newer instrument, the repertoire is much more contemporary. Maybe the most prominent composer for saxophone quartet would be Eugene Bosa, and there's a handful of others. I think that a lot of the music, however, was adapted from other chamber groups.
All right, here's a different question. What do you think of competitions in music? We know there's was it the Thelonious Monk competition? There's other kinds of competitions within national and state bands, high school bands. You can have competitions. Is that good for the music? Is it good for the kids? Is there also a danger of it getting a bit too gaudy? What's your artistic overview of competitions within the sphere of music education and culture itself?
I think they can be good for the music. If you look at some of those monk competitions that involve names that later became really prominent, like Chris Potter and Redman, in one, notably. I think that they can be good for music because they maybe make it they're entertaining, and for the people competing, I guess that they are dangerous. For some people, it depends on your outlook. I recently was watching it was a classical competition with people for like 11 and 12-year-olds on the piano, and I noticed the ones that won were just having fun, and then some people. Then there were also kids who were not enjoying themselves and constantly comparing themselves to the other kids. I think in that sense it can be unhealthy. I think it's important when you have people competing, especially kids, but also as an adult, that you're competing with other high-level musicians, that you go into it with the attitude that you're really competing with yourself and not really comparing yourself to everybody else.
You brought up the word classical, so I'm going to ask you, I mean, do you find it odd as an improvising musician that there's no improvising in classical music?
Well, anyone who listens to your show would know that that's not the case. I think it's kind of unfortunate that people don't learn that. I think improvisation can be not only fun, but it gives you a tremendous understanding of the music that you're playing and the vocabulary that you're trying to play. I don't think it really has to be specific to jazz, and historically, obviously, it wasn't. So
let me play devil's advocate. Let's say, all right, well, let's take Dexter Gordon. If you learned his solo, you shouldn't change it because, I mean, he is a master. And why would you kind of desecrate a master's work by changing notes here and there?
Well, you're not really learning a Dexter Gordon solo to honor Dexter Gordon. You're learning it to get. I mean, you're learning it to improve your playing or build vocabulary or get inside his playing. So I don't agree with that you're desecrating him by changing. Now, if you're learning somebody's solo, you should try to copy everything about it just to understand that musician's playing and their style and their inflections, and also notice flaws in their playing. I've had teachers write when I'm transcribing, not specifically Dexter Gordon, but when I'm transcribing people's solos, to write when they're sharp or when they're flat or things like that. Transcribe the mistakes and see what happened.
Nowadays everyone is going to college. Jazz education is very prolific. So is classical music. You can go to a conservatory, get master's degrees, PhDs. Give me a nice balanced view of higher education in music. Is it effective? I mean, can you really correlate a great player with a higher ed degree? Is it always the case that if you have a higher ed degree that you are going to be a guaranteed a great player or a great educator? How can we put this all in a balanced perspective?
I don't think going to a certain college or going through a certain program necessarily makes you a great player, especially when you're dealing with improvisation. Or becoming a really high profile concert soloist either. I think that as a performer, the value you get is with the people you study with, like the professors, and then your own ability to relate that to your own playing and not lose your own identity as a musician.
Since you're an improvising musician, what do you say to someone who might say, well, I mean, like, I want to hear the same thing, but note perfect. I don't want to hear changes. We need to hear it like a statue. It's got to be perfectly formed, and I'll hear it at the same time always. Is that a good attitude to take towards to music?
Not at all. I was having a conversation with Wayne, actually, the Wayne Pearcy from the quintet we were talking about earlier, about that, and in both jazz and in concert music, where it can sound sterile if it's always perfect, or you don't want to give people the sense that you're regurgitating music when you're playing it, and especially as an improviser. I guess jazz has always been about kind of coming up with your own sound and expressing yourself, or however you want to do that. And you definitely don't want to sound like you're regurgitating anything ever.
Would you say to somebody who says, well, jazz, I mean, they don't have technique, I mean, it's the classical players that have this flawless technique. Is technique only restricted to the classical world? And I know you play some classical music too. You play etudes?
Yeah, a lot of jazz players play etudes. In fact, etudes, I don't even consider them necessarily classical. They're just pedagogical, a lot of them. Some of them, I guess, fit into a style. But to anybody that says jazz players don't have technique, I would tell them to listen to Art Tatum and get back to me, because so there's been a lot of jazz virtuosos in the course of history. And
well, nowadays jazz music has been afforded the respect of concert music. Practically, you can view it in the same artistic pedestal, but it wasn't necessarily always the case, right? I mean, there was a feeling that it wasn't the same as perhaps concert music in terms of stature.
Yeah, I think in society, especially like pre 1960s or 70s in the United States, there were probably issues with race and whatnot that played into that, and a cultural stigma that kind of kept jazz out of that realm that we put European music in. But I think since civil rights have changed and jazz kind of changed with it, so that's part of it. And also, I think the introduction of jazz into colleges, it's been both a good and a bad thing, but it also it gave jazz theory has become prominent. It kind of gets the same sort of educational process that concert music has gotten.
Now, I never got a chance to ask you this in the last interview, but I'm going to put you on the hot seat. I'm going to... And remember, these are not super serious. You don't have to worry about your answers being locked down. And so whatever comes to mind, okay? And so just answer me whatever comes to mind. So I'm going to just rattle off a question here. Okay, so who are your top 3 jazz pianists?
My top 3 jazz pianists. Oscar Peterson, number 1. Number 2 would probably be Bill Evans, and 3 would be Tatum.
Okay,
2 and 3 are tied.
Top 3. Let's split them now. Top 3 tenors jazz saxophonists.
I guess number 1, going back, would be Coltrane, and then 2 would be Dexter Gordon, and 3 would be Michael Brecker. Although it's really hard to rank them. I think they're all so different.
How about top 3 alto jazz saxophonists?
Alto, some people might not like this one, but I have to put Cannonball Adderley at number 1.
Great.
Yeah. Just in terms of what I like, not in terms of musical historical significance. Yeah. And then Charlie Parker, and then going with a more modern guy that kind of goes in the Cannonball line, Vincent Herring.
Okay.
I guess I should put some.
Do you have name me your top 3 jazz standards?
Top 3.
Okay, don't put in the rhythm changes and don't put in the blues, because I'll ask you those separately.
Okay, fair enough. I think my favorite jazz standard of all time is Central Park West. It's kind of an interesting tune. My favorite one to play just at a jam session would be Days of Wine and Roses. And I like all of the Benny Golson tunes, but I think maybe Stablemates is an interesting one.
Right. How about top 3 blues?
Chi-Chi is a really cool one. It's a Charlie Parker blues. I like the key that it's in A flat. It's a little different. Kind of a different one. I guess I always like to play Billy's Bounce as a big one, and then I don't know. I like Oscar Peterson, so I guess I like his version of Night Train.
Right. How about top three rhythm changes?
Anthropology, of course. And can't leave I've Got Rhythm out, just historically. That's where it comes from.
Yeah.
And I guess in terms of just playing something in a jam session, I'd say like Olio.
Okay.
That's like the one.
What is it's top three Contra-facts?
Contra-facts.
Yeah, so that's a newly written melody over a famous chord progression.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I wasn't familiar with the term.
Oh, so like Donnelly is a contrafact of back home in Indiana.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought you would know that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I really should. My apologies.
You're like, what? What is what?
Wow. I guess not including rhythm changes.
Or it could be anything. Anything.
Was the one how insensitive is a contrafact of Chopin?
That's right. Yeah.
It's the sneaky one. But I guess I can't use Donna Lee anymore. You put me on the spot here.
You can. I mean, I like that one too.
Yeah, I mean, Donna Lee's sort of a classic. There's an interesting one, I guess, that there's on a Vincent Herring album. I honestly can't remember the name of it, where he uses Countdown as the A section of a tune, and then there's a tail that he added to it, which is kind of interesting. So I guess whatever that tune is.
All right. How about your most scariest moment in your music career?
Scariest moment. Oh yeah, I can give you one. I was in college. I was like 19 years old, and I was lucky enough to find myself on stage on the spot, trading eights over. I'm pretty sure Sweet Georgia Brown changes at 300 something beats per minute with Kurt Elling. I was like very young. I didn't really have my time feel together, and the band leader, the professor told Kurt Elling that it was rhythm changes, which wasn't the case. It was a big band chart I think it was roughly Sweet Georgia Brown changes, and he takes me backstage. I think he was being polite, because he knew I was like shaking and like quaking in my shoes. And if you haven't heard Kurt Elling scat sing, he's probably better than a lot of people on the saxophone, I guess. And he's like, "So what are the changes?" And I was freaking out. I don't have a recording of that, so I don't know how it actually turned out in hindsight. But that was fun and terrifying.
And give me a proudest musical moment.
I was doing I guess the first time that I really had fun. Well, I always have fun playing music, but the first time it was like sort of an out of this world experience. Yeah. I was playing at this show up in New Hampshire, and it was like right when I got out of college, and I just wasn't expecting. It was like my first show as a band leader. One of my first shows as a band leader, and for this like library, and they just packed the place. It was like surprising. I just never saw it coming. There was like 300 people there or something.
Wow.
It wasn't like a particularly large crowd, but it was just completely unexpected. And there were all, like these like kids from this high school there that performed before, and it was very well received. I was playing like jazz fusion, and I think that was the first time I'm like, wow, I can have a career as a performer. I think that was like a very surreal moment.
Oh, let me get you on record now. What's your opinion on fusion?
Fusion?
Yeah, this will be on record, so be careful what you say.
Okay. I guess it depends on the type of fusion. It's a very broad term. If you mean in the sense like my favorite fusion I like it. And if you're talking about like some of those Michael Brecker solo albums, are some of the best like artistic albums made in jazz, like
Yeah.
especially in the 80s and 90s. And that stuff's hard to beat. And with that said, there is some out there. I would say there is some soulless like fusion that has no identity out there too. I don't know if any of it was made by Brecker.
Oh yeah, that's great. Okay, let's see. I have a couple more. Let's see. So, who are your top 3 classical composers?
Number 1 is Tchaikovsky. I've been just really, I think since I was a little kid, I always liked his music, especially his piano works. And I think it's got a lot of commercial accessibility. Chopin, number 2. And if you want to consider him classical, Piazzolla.
Yeah.
And I guess if you don't, we'll stick with the Romantic period and go Beethoven.
Right. If you had no choice but to play, you can't play piano or saxophone, you had to pick another instrument for your main instrument, what would it be?
Pick a third instrument.
Yeah, an organ doesn't count.
Yeah, I was figured. I guess, should I stay away from the woodwind family altogether?
I mean, that's kind of cheating, but yeah, you could.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'll
I just want to know, is it going to be the guitar, or is it going to be the bass, or the drums, or is it going to be singing? That's what I want to know.
Definitely not singing. No, I'm just kidding. No, I guess I would go with the trumpet. When I was in high school, I made several attempts at playing the trumpet, and I had a lot of fun doing it. It's just a very, very difficult instrument.
Yeah.
And so, but
and do you have
but I guess
favorite trumpet players?
Yeah, Freddie Hubbard for the first 3. But no, but yeah, I like Lee Morgan. I think was actually one of the things I liked about the Blue Train album originally, and Freddie they're kind of very similar. I like to hear I guess I like the hard bop style of trumpeting, and then Clark Terry as well. I think Clark Terry was one of those people that had like such a peculiar sound. He has like invented his own way of playing the instrument that kind of aligned with proper technique too.
So there was never going to be a drum or a guitar version of you. Okay. So
yeah, I mean,
okay.
I think my drums are on my bucket list. I think that's probably helpful to know, but I never got to it.
Okay, the last question would be, if you could go back in time with a time machine and meet any musician, who would it be, and what would you guys talk about?
Any musician, all time.
Yeah, all time. We're talking. You could talk Perotin and Leonin if you wanted to.
Wow. Yeah, I guess it'd be interesting to meet Bach and figure out a little bit more about his style of coming up with music and playing, because there's a lot of conjecture about the Baroque period. It'd be kind of interesting to learn more about his music, and maybe just like what was part of his pedagogy and what he used for performance and whatnot.
Can I ask you about jazz? Same question, but jazz musician.
Jazz, Tatum. I want to figure out how he learned how to play like that. Although I heard I've like just reading about him, he was probably difficult to talk to.
Yeah. He said he just learned it by himself and just figured it out.
He had a classical teacher, but I don't know how far they got.
Yeah.
But he definitely had a grasp over classical music, or concert music, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just amazed how his conception grew so large to encompass so many things. And I mean, he came from, what state did he come from? Not like a big state, right? He just came from, was it Ohio? Toledo, right? Wasn't it?
I think it was Ohio. Yeah.
I mean, just out of nowhere. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. He
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the fantastic Aaron Gratzmiller. What a musician, what an educator, and what a raconteur you are. Look at you. You're just chatting up a storm here. Well, listen, man, thank you so much for taking the time to come back to the show. Really glad that you were gracious to come and talk to me, and I wish you all the best with your latest project. Actually, would you like to plug any upcoming projects and plug your new studio?
Oh yeah, Union Lesson Studios. We're opening in Somerville, Massachusetts, and we're offering lessons to people like beginners or all levels, and we have a couple of different instruments. So it's I'm excited about that. We're opening on July 1st.
Holy cow! Worcester that's Jazz like next Festival. Week.
It's next week, I know. The Worcester Jazz Festival, which is October 7th of this year, in the Worcester Common. That's an upcoming, and look out on their page for the many events we have coming up surrounding that. And I'm really excited about both of those things.
Wonderful. And how about the quintet? Any upcoming gigs, projects?
Yeah. We have a few private shows, but in terms of what's coming up publicly, if you look on our website, you'll see some stuff on my website, aarongratzmiller.com, and then you can check out the Pearcy Gratzmiller Jazz Quintet page on there. Some gigs will be popping up on there soon.
Wonderful. Well, Aaron, thank you so much, man. I wish you all the best, and I would love for you to be the first 3-time guest on my show.
Wow. That would be an honor.
I'm such a fan of your playing and your composing, so please keep up the great work and keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much, Aaron.
Thank you very much.